Hello, I'm Betty Swann, and this is Wisdom in the Night, where you can find answers for some of your hardest decisions and find the encouragement you need to go on. Tonight we have a great guest. He is a former pro football player, a motivator, and he's a pastor. His name is Shino Prater. Shino, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you on. You are such a great guy. You're really a help to a lot of people. And I know, Shino, that we don't know much about you. Tell me about your life when you were little and growing up. What were you like?
Well, I grew up in Texas, in Dallas.
Hooray, Texas.
That's right. That's right. A mother and my stepfather raised me. It was a difficult upbringing. Unfortunately, there was a lot of abuse and drugs and alcohol in the home. But along the way...
And your mom was a young mother, too, wasn't she?
Yes, young mother.
How old was she when she had you?
You know, my mother had me at the age of 16.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a choice she made, and it was a great choice to
because
keep
here
me.
you are.
That's right, that's right. And, you know, I always encourage people that are in circumstances and situations like that is to always think about the positive thing that could happen out of the entire scenario. But my mom did, and had a grandfather that just kind of stepped in, and the old country saying was, you know, you made your bed hard and ain't gonna lay in it. And she did a great job and raised a man. But growing up in Texas, it was all about football. It was all about sports. And I was able to go out there and perform at a high level. By the time I was a senior in high school, I had all the colleges across the country looking at me and wanting me to come play. Along the way, family had to hit a bump. You know, my parents separated and went through a divorce. And so growing up, you know, you grew up a little bitter, a little angry, life threw a wrench, but it doesn't mean that you quit and give up. And so I ended up getting picked up out of college, or to go to college at Penn State University.
And a lot of colleges wanted you?
Yes.
Why'd you pick that one?
My mother, once again, we're on Wisdom of the Night, and so my mother had wisdom. And she said, you know, it's about education. It's not just about going and playing football. And a lot of these teams and schools are offering the opportunity to play pro ball and college football, but they never could come back and say, you know, if his knee blew out or if he hurt his shoulder, is he still going to be able to keep a scholarship? And only one university was able to guarantee that. And so when Penn State said, yeah, he can continue to play, my mom was like, you got to go.
So who was the coach? Was it Joe Paterno?
Yeah, Joe Paterno was there. And,
did he come and meet your mom?
He did. You know, and that was a great honor for him to fly all the way down from Pennsylvania to Dallas, Texas, and to sit on my mother's couch and to talk to us and encourage me about football and education. So that was a great honor. And he was a wise man and was able to communicate exactly what the experience was going to be like, and it was. Well,
so what kind of wisdom did he have during that time?
You know, the big thing that Coach was all about for us is, you know, we're going to come in as boys, you know, 18-year-olds, and we think we know everything. And he said, look, you know, one day this thing's going to end, and I want to teach you how to become a man. And one of the things he taught us is, you know, we had to be clean-shaven. We had to wear coat and tie when we traveled. He'd always put us in some of the best hotels in the country when we played on Saturdays, and taught us how to interact with people from different ethnicities and different backgrounds and cultures. And he said, you know, one day this game will end, but you'll have to go on in life and begin to tackle the world. And so he prepared us for that.
And he's real big on getting a degree, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that. So what did he say about that?
Well, in the recruiting process, he sat down on the couch with my mother and I, and he said, you know, your son might play football, but I promise you this, he'll get his degree. And that was guaranteed, and so I did. I graduated.
And did you have a really good career there playing football?
I did. We won a national championship in '94, which, you know, that's what you play college football for. You know, you want to play in the big time, and so we did that. We played a lot of big bowl games. One of my highlights of playing college football was got to play against my best friend in high school. And he and I played on the same high school football team. He went to University of Texas. I played Penn State, so we ended up playing in the Fiesta Bowl.
Wow.
For one
What
New
was
Year's
his name?
Mike Adams.
And so when you saw each other out on the field, what'd you do? Did you grin at each other, or did you just ignore each other? What'd you do?
Pre-game, we were fun and having a good time with each other, but on the field, it was all business.
A total different thing, wasn't it? Totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So, how did you move on into pro football?
It's a process. They come and evaluate you, and some guys go do a combine, and I unfortunately didn't get to go, but I was able to get a look from the Tennessee Oilers, which became the Tennessee Titans, and so got picked up as a free agent and moved to Nashville, and it was great. It was a great opportunity to get in there and play pro ball, and along the way, God always, life just throws stuff at you, and met a friend that I played against in college. Name was Chris Sanders, and Chris sat me down. He's just saying, if you want to make it in this league, you're going to have to learn some things. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but he talked about being a professional and how you conduct yourself off the field as well as on the field. And he kind of took me under his wing and followed him around like a little puppy dog, just trying to learn and get wisdom from him. And along the way, he asked me a pretty stiff, strong question about did I know Jesus? And I remember sitting down and with him, and I told him yes, but internally I knew that I really didn't. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. And there was a big difference. And from that moment, he started bringing me to his church. And a lot of people you hear talking about giving their life to the Lord. I did that. That was 1998.
How old were you when you did that?
I believe I was 23 years old, 23, and was engaged, and just wasn't expecting any of that to happen. And went into this church, and pastor sat me down and began to, talk about life and the importance of having a relationship with Jesus. And that was a great experience to respond to that call.
And did you move on into other football arenas after that?
Yes.
Even though your life had changed, you stayed with that career?
Yeah. Along the way, ended up getting married, had my first child. And during that process of becoming a family man, I also pursued my career and ended up in Europe. So I played in NFL Europe for a while. Also went to the CFL, which is a Canadian Football League there. We won a Grey Cup that year, which was great experience. That's the Super Bowl of Canada, and so it was a great time. Along the way, some shifting started taking place in my life, which I didn't understand what was going on internally, and I started having this thing for people, and a lot of my friends on the team were hurting or down and out, and it all went back to that moment, sitting there in a church and giving my life to the Lord. My perspective changed on life, and it was more about people now, and started leading some of my teammates to the Lord, and their lives started changing, and everybody along the way started asking me, are you sure you're called to be a football player? And I started wrestling with that question.
Because that's destiny.
That's right.
You're trying to decide, what am I here for?
Right.
What is my life all about?
Exactly. And so along the way, in my heart, I felt a change of just the passion. I had more passion for people than I did to play the game. And I played this game since I was young.
Big change.
And ended up going to finish my career in the Arena League. And I remember sitting in my apartment there in North Carolina, and for this arena team, and just asking God, if it's your will for me to never play this game, then just close the door. And no sooner did I say that, the coach walked in and just said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and have to release you. And I knew what I just prayed, but I didn't know the significance of it. And so I went back to Nashville and started getting myself prepared for what I felt was really going to be what I was born for.
Wow.
A lot of people have a desire to do things, but when you have a passion, something that wakes you up every morning or something that drives you, you know that's the thing you want to do in life. And so I had an opportunity to go into the ministry, and I took the proper courses to do that, and got trained and equipped, and really understood that my life wasn't just about making money and playing football, but it was about impacting lives, impacting spheres of influence. and started on the campuses and traveled on college campuses. And
Now, Shino, did they listen to you better because you had been a pro athlete?
they did. That was a platform. That was a platform. But a lot of players, and you'll know this, but a lot of people get up, have a platform, and they get up there and they really don't have anything to say. It sounds good, but it's good for the moment. Just like we used to say, can you remember who won the Super Bowl 2 years ago? And a lot of people have scratched their head, and I can't remember. Or who won this, or who won the Oscars or the Emmys, and because it's fleeting. But the one thing I began to talk about was eternity and having purpose. And that always perked the young people up, the college students. I do want to do something great with my life. I don't want to just get my degree, but I want to go and make a difference. And so when they heard those things, they would follow. They would all of a sudden say, I want to know more about this God who created me and my purpose in life. And so I started on historically black colleges, universities in America.
Which ones?
Tennessee State and Nashville, also Fisk University, and Meharry Medical College. And so those are three major institutions there in Nashville, and then started traveling and speaking on all 103 across the country. And along the way, you'd see lives changed, and people call 2-3 years later after they've graduated from college and say, I remember coming into a meeting, I didn't want to be there, and you spoke, and my life was changed for it. And it's always a thank you and for coming out and doing what you did and saying what you said. So it was important.
Very fulfilling, wasn't it?
Yes.
There's nothing like doing what God created you to do.
Yes.
And some people don't do it, and some people do it and tell you there's no other life. It's the best.
Right.
Would you say that?
Yeah. When you are serving the Lord and you feel like you're in your sweet spot, or in the world they say you're in the zone. There's nothing like it, because you're making a difference. And sometimes you can't see it immediately. It may come a year later, it may become 2 years later, but people's lives are valuable and they're important. All lives are valuable. Ethnicities are important. And so whoever you are and where you're at, don't be afraid to tell your story of what has happened in your life.
And be very honest, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, what kind of challenges have you encountered? Because I know life is not perfect. It's just not. So there's challenges. What have yours been?
One of the greatest challenges I had, is you're climbing the ladder of life, and you want to get to the pinnacle of the thing that you want to be, and it's never fair. Sometimes things will come out of nowhere and hit you. And so along the way, I was married. I had 3 children. I had finally got to the place where I felt like this is it, about to be a senior pastor of a church, and great church, great area. Everything was going well. And unfortunately, I had went through a divorce. And it was like a punch in the stomach. It just knocked the wind out of my sails. It seemed like everything was crashing down around me. But the one thing I learned along the way, and this is what I try to communicate to people, is along the way, all those people that you stop and you help, those are the ones that are going to be with you during your most difficult moments in life.
Wow.
And so my relationship with Jesus was one of my anchors, which I went vertical with Jesus, and I went horizontal with my brothers and sisters in Christ. And when that happened, I had people that I hadn't talked to in maybe 5-6 years call, and man, I'm hearing some things. I don't want the details. I pretty much can figure out what happened, but we're here for you. And also I had a church family, and that church family also helped me in that walk as well. And so along the way, it was difficult. You cry, you have your moments, but the one thing I've learned is that you never quit. You have to keep moving forward, because if you stay in that spot, it could be bad. And so you want to continue to move forward. And the old saying when we played sports, there's a difference between being hurt and a difference between being injured. If you're injured, you can't play. But if you're hurt, you can continue to keep going.
You just play hurt.
You just play hurt. And so, you're hurt, and things are going through in your life that shook you a little bit, but you got to keep going, because there's people that are not just depending on you, but there's others as well that really need your help.
Well, Shino, did you have any problem with bitterness or unforgiveness in all of that?
No, because the Bible, that's my blueprint. It's kind of it's my compass of life. It says that Jesus said, if you don't forgive people their trespasses, God's not going to forgive you yours.
And did you think about that
Yes.
when this was all happening?
Because the one thing I've learned, either you can be bitter or you can get better. And so you can get bitter in that situation. And when you get bitter, it pours into other areas of your life. It can get to your spouse, it can get to your friends, it can get into your job. And so you don't want to get bitter. You want to guard your heart. You want to make sure that you're always understanding to forgive. And it's something that helps you along the way as you continue that walk of not being bitter and being forgiven.
Well, you know, there's that verse in Hebrews that says, be careful to not let a root of bitterness come in you, because it will spring up and defile many around you.
Yes.
And we see that today,
Yes,
don't we?
we do.
Somebody is so bitter, and the people around them are so hurt by it.
Yep.
But you're saying in a situation you could have had, it's very obvious you could have had it. Did you pray a lot? What did you do to keep that bitterness away?
You know, I prayed, and you know, you have your time of mourning. You know, you cry a little bit, and then, but after you shed that last tear, you got to make a decision. And I tell people, life's about choices, and you can either choose to do right or choose to do wrong, and there's consequences to that. And I chose to do right, and I just went around and I talked to people. I sought out people. And people actually found me that had went through the exact situation that I went through. And because it's different when somebody's been there.
They understand, don't they?
Exactly. And they can hear your pain. They can hear all about your hurts and your ups and downs. And they're able to relate. But the thing is, as you look at their life, that gives you hope.
All right, now, Shino, just think about one of those that came and said, I know, man, I know. What was the one thing somebody said to you that helped you the most in going through this divorce and the pain of it?
And you know, probably one of the most important things I heard out of all of it was that you have to keep going. You have to keep going. Like you cannot stop.
And you want to, I bet. I bet you want to pull in and close the door and pull the shades and get in the bed and not get out.
Yes, you do. You know, you just want to, you know, you feel like everything's over. Like, it just, you know, what should I do now? But you realize, you know, I have to keep moving forward. And
well, let me ask you this. What would you say to somebody whose life shifted dramatically like that? They thought their life was settled out, they knew where they were going, everything was lined out, and then something beyond their control happened that shifted them in another direction. So as a motivator, what would you tell somebody to do in that kind of a situation? You
know, I have them find somebody who's gone through it. And and also, you know, of course, if they don't have a relationship with God, or they don't have a church family, that they need to get that.
Did your having a church family make a difference?
Yes, because
why? How? What?
You know, the thing about the church, they love you unconditionally, and sometimes you can be in an environment where there's gossip, there's strife. Unfortunately, not everybody wants to see you make it. And when you get around people that are positive, that are uplifting, that'll cry with you, that'll pray with you, that'll just listen, they won't even say anything. They'll just let you talk.
And sometimes they don't even have the answer, but that you just need somebody to listen.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a good place to go.
It's a good place to go because it's genuine, it's authentic, and they really care. They really care about you. And
now, have you had any other challenges besides the divorce? And getting through that with your children and all of that? You
know, my children, they wanted to know why, you know, what's going on here. And that's the one thing as a father, and I don't know if there's any watching tonight, but I know this, the strength of a father is very important during a difficult situation. Because as a father, you have to be a rock for your family. You got to be that pillar. And my kids didn't know what to do. They were all over the place. You know, they had their own grieving moments and ways of grieving. And all I could do is just be there for them and stay the course And as they watched me walk it out, they've gotten a little bit better along the way.
And did you think it was important that they get counseling and you get counseling?
If need be, you know, because in their timing and in their way. And it was pretty unique because we had to relocate. And
you had to move from Nashville.
Yes. So I went from Nashville to New Jersey, which was like culture shock. But, you know, along the way, it's amazing how God is sovereign and He knows what you need. And He was able to surround us with some good people here in the Northeast. And my kids found some new friends, and they were able to
make the adjustment.
Yeah, make the adjustment and rebuild their lives again.
So really, do you feel like your kids, out of this hard thing, that even some good will come out of it for them?
It will. I really believe it, because one thing that you have to be able to communicate to your children or anybody that's the next generation is that life's is not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be what you want it to be, and that you have to learn to walk through those circumstances and situations, and most of all have the right people around you.
I bet that's hard with kids, though, because you got to be sure there's the right people around them too.
Exactly.
Because it's kind of a dangerous time. They can be trapped and not know it, right?
Right. And loving and kind and meeting them where they are. I know that there's times where you have to kind of just sit there and let them vent and let them say what they're going to say, and know where it's coming from, that it's not directly toward you. Right. But it's just a way to cope.
Okay, now how's your future going? What's it looking like?
No, it's amazing that as long as you continue to be you and not compromise, the amazing thing that happens is that life gets better. Eventually it begins to turn. Eventually those things that were taken away from you all of a sudden start being given back to you. And so life's gotten better. It's more, you learn, and you realize, okay, there's some things you can do better, and you start working on those things, and next thing you know, you never know what'll walk into your life.
Well, what kind of wisdom would you have for the people that are watching this tonight? Some of them are just getting off work, some are just getting ready to go to work, some are extremely depressed, some are very ill, and some are very happy because their life is just beginning and they've been out all night partying and having a good time. So give some advice that you would have, some wisdom you have gotten.
You know, the greatest thing that I've gotten, and when you say wisdom, is that word we said a couple minutes ago, is about being forgiving. And I know that there's people out there, they've been done wrong in relationships. They may have been done wrong on their job. They could have been done wrong, you know, just with the parent growing up with their and siblings. But the key is to forgive, because if not, you'll carry that around and you'll never be able to move forward in life. You're always going to be dragging that circumstance, and you'll be dragging that situation around. You have to give it away. If you're a believer or a follower in Christ, give it to Him, and you'll be amazed at the weight and how you'll be able to move freely about in life, because it's not holding you anymore.
So somebody's watching you right now and they're going, so you're saying I need to get right with God. What do they need to do? You
know, we hear them get right with God or give your life to Jesus. You know, the first thing is just acknowledge that your sin. You know, that you're not perfect.
That's not hard for most people.
Exactly. But we're all born sin with sin, and we all need a Savior. And you know, according to what I believe, Jesus is the way. He's the truth. He's the life. And that if you confess your sins to Him, and you turn away from whatever you know, and that His Bible or says that is that's sin, and you put your hope and trust in Him before what He did on the cross, that your life will be changed forever. You'll be what the Bible calls saved. And you believe that Jesus is the Son of God. And it's just that simple. Sometimes we make it complicated, but it's just acknowledging those things and saying, you know what, I want to follow you.
Well, we're just so glad you come. It's great.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to tell you, what this man's talking about is a man's man. He is a man that could have made any choices with his life. He could have gone a lot of different ways, and yet life had a way of coming in on him and crashing and causing him to crash and burn. And yet, look at him now. So those of you that are watching and you're saying, if you knew what I have gone through in my life, Betty Swann, you would think there's no hope for you. But I'm telling you, there is a God who loves you. He has a wonderful plan for your life. He intends to do it if you'll let him, and it will be better than anything you can do for yourself. In fact, I want to tell you a little saying I live by. Think about this. If you do it for yourself, you'll have some success. But if you allow him to do it, he will place you in realms you never dreamed of. I am living proof of that, folks. I can't even begin to tell you the things that have happened to me. My deepest desires have come, and then way beyond that, way beyond that. And then I know the Lord, and you can know the Lord. And for those of you that are watching and you're saying, I don't even believe in God. I don't even believe any of this is even real. Well, let me tell you what to do. Just pray and say, Jesus, if you're really alive and you're really the only Son of God, somehow, some way, prove it to me. Show me. And he will, because he wants to help you. So just try that little prayer and see what happens. Even if you're saying to yourself, I don't believe this. I don't believe these words. Say it anyway. What do you have to lose? And I want to thank you so much for tuning into this show. It wasn't an accident that you turned to this channel tonight. I hope you received some wisdom that you needed and that you have a great rest of the night. I'll see you next time. Bye.